Welcome back to the Boss Mode walkthrough series. This is Chapter 8, Goblin Walker's Champion Mode. We saw from the normal mode, we got a good glimpse of all the enemies and what sort of stuff we're facing. Because we're not dealing with any fast heroes, essentially that opens up the possibility for a speed team. So while the overall run is only moderately faster than what we ran with the Goblin team, it does basically open up the option for another team. So my speed team, for the most part, is pretty much anything involving Cobalt. So when I put out Cobalt and I know there's no fast enemies, basically I'm expecting to clear everything before they get any turns. So the route that I'm going here is more of a caster situation here. So I'm going with Cobalt and Ponty for damage. I threw Astrid in there just for kicks. I don't use her at all, but I know that she's going to give me a little bit of defense for my casters. And then obviously I throw Daggerin on there for the caster buff. So if you have a strongly runed Cobalt, you can run this with pretty much anybody you want. If you happen to have any heroes that still aren't level capped, bring them along for some free XP. Otherwise, do yourself a favor and bring Daggerin for a caster buff. I didn't touch on it before, but you can see here that the champion mode mechanic here is the Shocking Touch. We talked about this one in Castle Talindra. Shocking Touch is only an issue if the guys hit you. Now, if they do ultimately get some hits on you, be prepared to take a little bit of damage. So the real question is, when we get to those couple of guys that have the Vendetta trait, if you can't wipe that entire room, at least somebody's going to get hit, and it's going to spread that shock damage and probably jolt you a little bit. If you have a decent team, I don't expect the shock to kill you because you shouldn't be getting hit by really anything else but that shock damage, with the exception of the one person. Now, none of these guys are immune to darkness, so it's probably best if you want to cycle between Cobalt's first and last attack. His Pandemic Swarm and his Contagion Control. Same kind of rationale as usual. We want to get to the boss room and have Contagion Control and not have it on cooldown. So however that requires you to go through and use the skills, if you have to use Arcane Bolts, so be it. But just make sure that move is up for the last turn. These two guys here happen to survive Cobalt. That's because he uses Pandemic Swarm. I don't expect that to kill as readily as Contagion Control. So it's not as surprising as some of the other guys that have survived him in the past. But you should also be prepared that if your Cobalt is not as highly leveled, that you might leave some guys left over every once in a while. So keep that in mind here. Now on this room here, because there's 5 enemies, I know that I can safely use Contagion Control and have it up on the next room because I know it's going to kill everybody. Contagion Control almost never lets me down. If you have that kind of confidence in it, feel free to use it anytime you have a 5 enemy room. So, as I mentioned before, when we get to these boss rooms here, anytime we see a bunch of guys out here, it makes me a little bit nervous because even though I know that I can do some heavy killing with Cobalt, those guys are still kind of elite and champion level enemies. It's possible they might not be one shot. So my plan here is to use Masuda Kira as a friend hero because of the undead nature of these guys. And pretty much, they're not going to survive much with that. So now it basically leaves me with just Cobalt to do his thing. So if you don't have Kira on there, obviously you can do things like Kozar. But don't expect to one-shot these guys, so you do have to be prepared for that Vendetta. I was kind of expecting Cobalt to die because without a Marked for Death or something like Kozar's attack, I just didn't expect everybody to go down in one hit. So I kind of expected Cobalt to eat it there, which is ultimately why I bring the Revive Potion. If you don't think he can survive that or survive the stage, you might want to consider somebody else. Personally, Cobalt is kind of my main guy, so I'm not leaving him whenever there's a chance for a speed run. So unless you're drastically short on revive potions, which I was at one time, shouldn't really be much of an issue. So now it's just a matter of cleaning up here between Astrid and Daggerin. They're not really going to do much, so it's just a matter of what I want to do with Cobalt. I decided to go with a basic attack because I was hoping he would whip out an epic attack. It turns out he didn't, but wasn't really a big deal. So all things considered, it was a pretty speedy run, and it was also a fairly safe run too because of the no fast enemies. The shock really didn't hurt us that much, so nothing to worry about there. Stay tuned next time for the boss mode mechanic. Thanks for watching.